Hello team, it's great that you'd all be here today. We at Towers Watson are super excited to be here with Antenna so that we can kick off our wonderful rewards management project. Just to recap, for those of you who perhaps forgotten, what we are going to do within this project is help Antenna assign a global grade that is a number for each role within the organization that would allow them to have a system for external competitive benchmarking and, importantly, internal equity. Essentially, we're going to size each role so that we have a global grade map for the organization on which we can underpin and overlay all pay and reward elements for each individual within the corporation. So, going straight into what it is that we do with our projects, there are 3 steps: diagnose, design, and deliver. The diagnosis, some of which you've already done, is making sure that we have understood what it is that you want to get out of this. Whilst we at Towers Watson know and love, of course, our proprietary products, and we know the value we can offer, it's important for us to know what it is that keeps you up at night. And importantly, is there the right alignment between the work that we're doing and the solutions that you're hoping to have? Once this is in place, we move on to the design stage. In this case, this will be largely the actual physical evaluating of roles. Importantly, we talk about roles every step of the way, and we do remove ourselves from discussing individuals. Should there be people in roles that aren't quite right, perhaps they have been promoted early or are lagging behind, the whole point here is to make sure we have the correct organizational structure so that everything can join that and we move towards a great HR corporate governance. And then, of course, finally, delivery. Once we've done our assessments and our evaluations, we will give you a wonderful global grade map, i.e. an org chart that allows you to see very simply and plainly how each individual fits into the system. Of course, at this stage, there may be adjustments to be had. Sometimes it's only once you see the whole picture do you realize the fact that perhaps 1 or 2 roles have perhaps been over or undervalued. Either way, this whole project should take us 3 to 4 months based on the size of the organization. Some of this does come down to how quickly the team does pick up our training methodologies. It is quite complex, but most importantly, it comes down to how much time can your management team afford us. This is a highly collaborative type of project that requires every member of the team to be present. And as and when we request time, it is important that we get it, because without the right input, unfortunately, there's not much that we can do, at least certainly not to the level that Antenna would expect, and we, of course, insist on delivering. So, moving on to actual management terms, we envisage being in quite regular contact. Now, though we will have weekly and monthly meetings, and we do have these touch points, that of course doesn't mean that we cannot and will not have communication throughout. It's just important that by having the structure, we always have something to work towards. So every week, the project leads, that'll be myself in this case, will send to the lead at Antenna a spreadsheet of sorts that outlines any issues that we're facing, any major dilemmas, any questions that perhaps have not been answered, and in our top right corner you'll see a status. So essentially it's a standard status report that allows us to keep check, us internally, you internally, and the 2 of us as a partnership. And then should there be any issues or indeed just kudos wanting to be shared, we can always hop on a call or arrange some meeting to discuss any pendings. And then of course, for major issues, of course we don't really envisage any of these, but major issues or a series of small issues, we do have a monthly meeting that will be scheduled to make sure that we do have a a point at which we can almost take a pause, take a breath, make sure that every element is where it should be. With these weekly status reports, it's always possible that one small thing creeps in, another small thing creeps in. It's not until you take stock of the whole picture do you really appreciate where you are all the time. And again, in this case, it would be myself that would be discussing with HR director. Nothing will be off the agenda of these meetings. It's just a case of making sure at the highest level down to the lowest level, things are where they should be. And of course, as I mentioned, we are always here. Every client matters to us, and we've always loved working with Antenna. So whatever does pop up, email, phone call, we actually, as you know, have offices only around the corner. So as and when needed, we will always be sure to sort things out. And it's not a case of leaving things to our official weekly meetings or monthly meetings. It's making sure that we're present throughout. A point of issue more for Antenna, given your size of team versus ours, it's just the three of us, as you know, on this particular engagement. We do request that we are given quite advanced notice of anyone who's unable to be part of particular meetings. Of course, everyone needs vacation and things pop up, but given the nature of our work, where it is quite difficult for people to slot in, almost impossible in some elements, and the fact that we do plan ahead, it is always important that we do get advance notice, at least a week, if someone will be away for an extended period, so that we have no breaks in our project, because we are being very ambitious. We say 3 to 4 months. This is the kind of thing that typically can take a fair bit longer, but we have set up this time frame just because we have done so much work with you, and we know the kind of team that we're dealing with. So touching back onto team structure, as I've mentioned, a lot of these touch points would be with myself as project leader, and indeed as the subject matter expert for much what we do. But you both know Elias and Mark here, two wonderful members of the team, though I will be doing the overall management of the project and making sure that every stakeholder is held accountable and everyone is in alignment. These are two phenomenal team members who at any point would be happy to answer your questions. So day-to-day questions, perhaps administrative issues of files, perhaps a quick recap, do feel free to contact them at any point. And whilst I think it's very clear what each member of the Antenna team will be responsible for, the TBC does concern me somewhat. We are only a couple of weeks away from having this project really start. Once we start our training sessions, it's very difficult to have new people join. So I would like to see this filled in. So Ms. Musgrave, if we can have a discussion about this sometime this week, because once we start training, we really don't want people to come in. This is not the kind of material that someone could just read a couple of pages of a textbook and pick up. So I think we are fine here. It's just we do need to make sure that this team structure is finalized ASAP. And this is a quick snapshot so you can see the kind of report you can expect to see from us. The three colors, as I mentioned, red. This would be if we are behind by more than 2 or 3 weeks. Amber in the top right corner means that we're a week or two behind. Green, which I do expect to be seeing every week, is going to be we are where we should be. And this just outlines what it is we've achieved this week, where are any issues or risks, and essentially just some admin to make sure that there's a constant feedback loop for everyone involved. Now, with all that out of the way, some next steps, because again, we don't want to take pause this. We do need a meeting with the CEO. As we mentioned with our diagnosis stage, it's important that we have the CEO backing. These kind of projects, they can be highly political. It's very difficult to to really have success without the back end CEO, because once we set a number and we lock it in place and someone's a 13 versus a 14, that changes the entire positioning of their comp. And all future structures and what we do will be based on these numbers. So having them on board is key. And with that, we do typically like to have the CEO involved with HR to do that initial management of the process, to have his or her direct reports arranged through him. And we feel that a half-day session off-site is the kind of thing that allows us to knock these two things together in one. And so if you could have a meeting set up sometime next week, that would be fantastic. And then coming towards the end, we need to lock in dates. Essentially, that's much of what this is. Number one, we need to have this training set up. It does typically take about 2 days. And so we propose March 16th, 17th. We spent a lot of time talking. Once this is set up and once everyone's trained, that's when things will go. Onwards we move. And so please just let us know if these dates work for you. And with that, we do need to speak to each member of management. These are the individuals that will be locking in grades for each of their subordinates, and it's imperative that we have the right time to speak to them to arrange time to discuss each position that's under their guise so that we can do our work properly. And in order to do that, we do need every single job description to be approved. The worst thing to happen in this type of project, is to walk in, have a manager talk about a role that looks like X, but we've seen a job description that looks like Y. So just making sure that everyone is on the same page throughout. And with that, we're done. Much of this is admin. We've done this many times before. We've worked it before. We know what to expect. And what's left to say is we are phenomenally excited to be working with you and partnering with you once again. And for anything else you need, any questions, now is the time for discussions. So here we go.